If you go back in history, this is the way to plant. These are the crops to focus on. It's been done for hundreds of years, and it's pretty amazing once you start to break it down, how much this category, how big this category is, and how you can fit it into your schedule and your diet. I personally try to focus on this category of crops as much as possible. There are always, you can't have your entire garden planted like this, but, well, you can, but the diversity just wouldn't be there. And let's be honest, fun would that really be? I mean, you know, if you planted just one thing all the time, it wouldn't be any fun. So yeah, we don't grow this for sport. This isn't hobby at Sandy Bottom Homestead. This is life. We grow this food to eat, and we don't care about showing it off. We just want to consume it and have enough. And my goal is for you to have enough. But if you go back in history, people typically grew just a handful of varieties of crops in their gardens. And the one thing every single variety had in common were they were mostly shelf-stable crops. So what does that mean? Well, these are crops that don't need to be preserved in any way. So you've got things like your rutabagas. You've got things like, technically, you can have, at the right time of year, your Brussels sprouts they'll function that way. Turnips will function that way. What else? Cabbages will do well in this, and they will hold over for a long time. Not to mention, you've got stuff like garlic and potatoes and sweet potatoes and butternut squashes, winter squashes, onions. All these things are crops that don't really need to be canned in any way. And the reason why it was so good and so prevalent is because it was survival, right? There was no electricity. You probably didn't have money to go buy stuff for cans and all that stuff. So if you're worried about that kind of stuff and you are in the survival side of this, which I always toe the line on, you know, this is something to really focus on. And like I said, there are so many different crops you can focus on and use to your advantage for this that it astounds me to when I start thinking about it. Because I mean, we can go through here and we'll go through and I'll show you a few things right off the bat that make it even easier. I mean, we're not even going to talk about preserving at all. Parsnips. Right? Parsnips are great. And with parsnips, you can go factor in carrots as well. So this time of year in the fall, we grow our parsnips and we leave them in the ground until the minute we want to eat them. We do not harvest them until we are ready to cook with them. And we basically use our garden as cold storage. Same can be done with carrots. I'm not growing fall carrots this year because I didn't feel like it. And I've found that carrots actually do, if I plant them in the fall and I plant them in the spring carrots will outgrow the winter carrots. So I just stopped growing them in the winter time. But in the spring, and even if you grew them in the fall, you can have them sit in the ground until you're ready to consume them as well. Not to mention, with a little bit of refrigeration, your refrigerator, you can make it stay. I mean, we had carrots this year. We had that pretty big harvest. I don't know if you remember, this entire bed right here was all carrots. I would say almost 3 months we had carrots available from that for us to eat. So yeah, you know, using the refrigerator is electricity. I get that. You could use root cellars and stuff like that. There's the sandbox method where you can, you know, keep it cool that way. So all of that stuff is, you know, something that you can do and is useful, but at the same time, leaving it in the ground just makes it that much easier. And it's crazy when you think about it. And I mean, even to that extent, time of year, these rutabagas will do the same thing. And I can leave them in the ground. And you can see we're starting to fatten up some rutabagas. So they can sit there until they're ready to be consumed. We typically won't harvest them all until the very end when the bed's almost empty and we just want to get it emptied. Then we'll take the rest of them out, but we'll just come back and we'll harvest them one at a time. Cabbages are great because they, you know, with a little bit of refrigeration, easily a month or two. And then we have to also factor in with all of this, all of these crops that we've mentioned, most of them And there's even an argument for some of the other ones. They can all be bases to many, 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 many recipes. You know, you can add cabbage to just about anything and bulk it up. Carrots, you know, and a lot of these are stewing type vegetables because, you know, that was really common, was to make a stew of some sort. But if you go down the line, all of these crops are very well versed and there's multiple uses for them. I mean, sweet potatoes and potatoes, those are, I mean, come on. You know, the only one that I think, and correct me, you know, if I've missed any crops that are long-term storage crops, shelf-stable crops, let me know. But I'm thinking butternut squashes would be the only thing that wouldn't be like a staple type vegetable. But at the same time, I mean, you could do anything you want with it, but it's just not a commonly thought staple vegetable. Don't get me wrong, I like growing the tomatoes that were in this bed up until the other day. I like growing broccoli and all that stuff, but in push comes the shove. If I had to make a hard decision about what to grow and I was worried some ish was gonna go down in the world, I wouldn't be growing these maybe because, or as many of them, because I'd wanna focus on these other crops. I mean, white potatoes, dude, I keep them 6 months, easy. Our sweet potatoes, we harvest in September. So October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So right around 8 months is how long they last us. Not until they go bad. That's how long they last us before we eat it. So 8 months in, we are still consuming these. And it's really amazing too, if you get away from like lettuces and some of your leafy greens that can wilt, it's amazing how long some of these crops will last on your counter too. I mean, you know, a cucumber, you can get a couple days out of it, a week even. You know, tomatoes, if you pick them right, you can do the same thing. But when it comes to preserving them and long term, and when I say long term, I mean longer than a week or two, maybe 3-4 weeks at minimum, month plus, you just can't beat some of these crops. So as you make your garden plans this year, think about it. Think about what you can add in and how much of these shelf-stable crops and staple crops do you want to grow in your garden. Let us know in the comments below, what are you going to add or what do you grow that is a shelf-stable / staple crop. Goodbye.